Good morning. This is Danielle Beach Oswald. 2 weeks ago, we spoke about all the changes. 2 weeks ago, we spoke about all the changes that were occurring in the asylum system and the attempt, basically, to revamp and eliminate what is known today as the asylum system on many different levels. So today, I would like to encourage you to listen to that video. And if you have other questions, feel free to email and contact me, and I'll be happy to go forward on another specific program on the proposals. Today, what I propose to talk about is we've been going to USCIS interviews, we've been going to asylum interviews in the last week and 2 weeks, and we've also been going to the court. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about how the procedure works in each one and what you can expect, because there has been some changes. As you know, we do all areas of immigration law, so I'm going to talk about all three. So first of all, we found out this morning that the immigration courts in Baltimore specifically are closed until the next Friday, which is the 7th. That is something we don't know why, we don't know what has happened yet, but as the liaison to chair for EOIR to Baltimore, I'm always informed first on these things. The information we get is sometimes piecemeal. So if you have a hearing next week before Friday, it's not going to happen in Baltimore only. Now, what's happening in Baltimore is that when you arrive in the courts, you have to put on a mask as you walk into the court. You have to keep the mask on the entire time you're in the court and while you're testifying. So I suggest wearing maybe a lighter summery mask, because sometimes these cotton masks are really hard to speak through. And it's hard to hear people also when the judges talk. So that is the procedure. Typically, the government is not there, though at my last hearing last week, the government did come down because they had electronic problems. As you know, sometimes getting people on a telephone system doesn't work very well. So the government attorneys may appear or they may not appear. If they don't appear, they will be there by phone. So, but the judge will be in person, you will be in person, and your attorney will be there in person. Now, as far as immigration goes, so in immigration, what's happening is a little bit different. So you get there, again, you have to put your mask on. Again, there is, just like the court, a lot of the pews, a lot of the chairs are blocked off, are taped. You can't sit there. There are 6 feet apart social distancing. So you're not able to have very many people there, obviously. You don't see a lot of people walking around the corridors or anything like that. So there's very few people around. My colleague told me when she went this week to 3 interviews that there were actually almost 40 people in the waiting room. But when they were naturalized, there was only about 2 or 3 people who were being naturalized at a time, but they're doing a number of different interviews. So this year's election year, so remember the attempt and the focus is on getting people naturalized. So what we've seen is a lot of our cases are being approved for naturalization because it's election year, they're being sworn in. That may not obviously be the case next year. Things happen always on election year faster. What's happening is when you go in to be interviewed for your naturalization interview, of the 3 interviews we did this week, 2 were at the window. So that means when you get in the waiting room and the people are sitting there waiting and you go up to the window with a plexiglass, you're being interviewed actually at the window. The officer on the other side, you can't give them documents. So you have to show them the documents through the plexiglass. And then the lawyer would have to, or yourself, you would have to put them in a box and they will then look at those. There is no handing documents to anybody anymore. On one of the interviews we had, which was a naturalization interview this week, the officer actually took the client and us, the attorney, into their office. Now, 3 people in a small office is a very constricted area and is somewhat uncomfortable, even with masks, because that is certainly not 6 feet apart. It's not even 1 foot apart. So that seems to be based on the decision of the officer as to what they want to do. Now, thirdly, when we talk about the asylum office itself, so we've gone to 3 interviews, 2 last week, 2 last week, and 1 this week. Interviews are long. They tend to range 3-4 hours at least. So again, the same procedures. When you come into the asylum office, there's hardly anybody there, if there's anybody there, except the guards and the people behind the glass. You don't see people in the waiting room. You go up to the window as usual. And at that time, what happens is you wait for the officer to come out, and someone takes you. Actually, it's another officer who comes in and takes you to that officer to interview. You do not actually see that officer sometimes, because what they do is all video screen. So it's very different. So you are there with your client and an interpreter, and the officer's going to interview you. So they take you in the back. You're put into one room with a video screen. There's nobody else in the offices that you can see. Your client is put into a different office with also a video screen. The interpreter is put into a third office with also a video screen. And the fourth office is for the officer. So you're all in different offices. You cannot see each other except on a video screen, which is very much like a Zoom screen. You see all of you. Periodically, my experience has been that the Zoom cuts out and you can't see your client. Then the officer has to get the client out of the office, go back, fix the video, come back, put the client back in the office. So all this takes time. And this may be part of the reason why these interviews are taking so long. They are interviewing people who are 1 year, who have applied after 1 year first. Those seem to be the interviews that are coming the fastest. People who've applied in 2015, 16, and 18 and on are still waiting. There's a backlog of over 340,000 cases. So when people email me and say, why don't I get my interview? My answer is, watch my video on affirmative asylum. The director is gone. I think she sort of got fed up because things were going just from bad to worse with the administration. So they have an interim director. That's the way things are going there now. You cannot anymore go as an attorney and do inquiries. When I tried to do that, they said everything is by email. So that's what's happening at the asylum office. So I want to talk a little bit more about the asylum office, and you're going to have lots of chances to ask questions, and I'm going to try to answer as many of your questions as I can. I see already a lot of questions are coming up. So first of all, magical date, August 24, 2020. So there is also a proposed asylum regulations, and right now there's a lot of litigation about that. So like the DACA, like the third country bar situation of people coming across the border, those things may be attacked. But I'm going to talk about the work permits. And again, this is in litigation, but as of August 25th, it becomes law unless there is litigation that changes it. So remember the 365-day rule, the 765, 150-day rule, which meant that if you applied for a work permit for asylum, after 150 days that your case had been pending, you would then be eligible to file an asylum application, a work permit. Well, that is if your renewal or initial 765 hasn't been postmarked before August 24th, if it has been postmarked before August 24th, the old rules apply. So you're still going to be eligible for that renewal. But what if it's something that's being filed after that date, August 25th? Then you're subject to what's now the 365 calendar day year. That's not a good thing. It means that instead of waiting 150 days, which is 5 months, you're going to be waiting 365, which is 12 months. So that's a long period to wait for a work permit. What if you entered iwi? So you entered, but you were never inspected. You didn't go through the border and go through an asylum office with a credible fear interview. You're not going to be eligible for a work permit at all after August 25th. That is completely new. That's completely different. Because before, you were still eligible for a work permit. Now, there is an exception called a good clause exception. But that clause exception is very limited. So it's if the person presented themselves without delay, no later than 48 hours after their entry or attempted entry to the Border Patrol people, and they had an intention to apply for asylum and expressed a fear of persecution, and they had good cause for the illegal entry or attempted entry, and reasonable justification for the illegal entry or attempted entry, such as medical attention needed, and also they can't have any criminal record. They have to be fleeing imminent serious harm. So if you were harmed and arrested a year ago or 2 years ago, that may not be considered imminent harm. That may not even be considered a valid entry. And remember, in the new rules, judges can determine if it's even, they can pre-termit an asylum case if they don't think that it's based on all the things that are required. So they can make negative inferences. So it's not a reasonable possibility anymore. It's negative inferences. Could you turn on all the lights, please? Thank you. Sorry, I'm doing this from home and someone's messing with the lights. All right, criminal bars. Those are also going to eliminate possibilities for work authority. Applicant cause delays. Those are going to eliminate possibilities for work permits. Applicant delays can be many different things. So we don't know exactly how they're going to interpret that. But the asylum clock, basically as we know it now, which is in itself a quite complicated concept, would no longer exist. These new rules would substitute for the asylum clock. I'm not today going to go into all the proposed rules to eliminate the asylum, because I did that sort of in my last video. And we aren't sure exactly what's going to happen with that, if the litigation will change some of that or not. But listen to that video and that will tell you about that. So the other thing to remember here is what is it that is considered imminent harm? So, you know, the proposed rules are also suggesting that domestic violence and gangs would no longer be a basis for a particular social group asylum. So that means that a lot of cases coming from South America, Central America, would be totally eliminated, because that would not be any more part of what we have long considered asylum and long considered the requirements for asylum. So what I want to do is look at a few of your questions and see what you have. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for emailing me. Okay, so all right. I have a lot of messages, but none that are questions. Now, I'm sure you have questions about what I've said, so if you think of them later or you share this video with somebody and they say, you know, I have questions about this, what is going to happen? How is this going to affect me? What do I do? Just feel free to contact me at Beach Oswald Immigration Law. Feel free to watch any of the videos. We've been posting since March approximately 12 or 13 videos. So in the last 3 or 4 months, those videos are very informative about different subjects. You know, each time something new comes up, we try to talk about that. I wanted to mention also a little bit about something new about the immigration. As you know, they had a 60-day automatic delay that was happening for RFEs, requests for evidence, if you were in a marriage case or any kind of case in front of immigration. And then those delays stopped as of June 30th. So if you have an RFE that goes past that date, then that would no longer be valid. Please feel free to contact me. I know it's a difficult time. I know there are many difficult issues coming up, and I know that you have many concerns about what's going on. We are trying to do the best we can to continue functioning as normal. We're all still working 5 days a week. We're all still getting out the work that we need to get out. And we're moving as fast as we can. We appreciate that you stay safe and healthy. And we look forward to seeing you and talking to you on these Friday morning chats. Thank you. Bye-bye.